back to Another Man's Customs. You can see the gremlin sitting still today because I'm waiting for parts. In my last video, the one where I was lucky enough to go on a little vacation, I mentioned that I decided to go ahead with the conversion of this gremlin into AMX GT. And if you just Google AMX GT, the whole history of it is there. They don't exist. I think there's one left, and somebody else is trying to make one. If you Google it, you'll see that gentleman's operation going on. So why I'm making a video today about my new welder is because I don't have the front half of the AMX yet that I'm working on getting. And so till I get that part, I cannot do anything on this car. So we're gonna do some other videos that relate to working on this car. Today's gonna be about a new welder that I purchased. It was, the brand is called Arc Captain. It's an inverter welder. So what do? You turn on the gas, set the type of metal and the wires, the voltage, which is the wire speed, and you start welding. So we're gonna do some test welds today and see if we can't get this welder dialed in, so when I do have the parts, I can start cutting and welding and getting this car together. To start, I do have experience welding when I worked at a couple of body shops, 38 years of welding, I guess. And then I also was a welding instructor for a couple of different companies. So I'm gonna lean on my background to explain how to set up this new welder, and we'll go from there. Earlier part of the video, I just purchased a Arc Captain welding unit. So this is a MIG welder. It does flux core, it does gas wire, which is what I'm using today. I'm gonna use a 75-25 argon mix like they use in the body shops. And we're gonna set up the welder. This is just out of the box, so I'm not familiar with it. I've never used this brand. I do have one of their plasma cutters, which works pretty good too. So I decided that I know there's a lot of welding videos out there. There's a lot of people that know a lot about welding and probably using high dollar equipment. And again, you guys know that I'm all about being in the budget. I'm in my garage. I'm not gonna buy a $1,000, $1,500, or $3,000 welder. The only thing about this one is it does come with the 2-pound wire spool. And I guess I wasn't aware of that based on photos on the website. It's, if you look at it this way, if you buy a full spool for regular size, you're probably looking at 50 to 70, 80 bucks. I got the spool I put in there is, again, a 2-pound spool. Now this one is 035 gauge, and the one I put in there is 030. I do like 023 because it burns a little cooler, but maybe I could turn the volts down a little bit and cool it down that way. Either that or weld slower, I guess. But when you think about those spools, those are $9. Those spools are $9 a piece, so they're very affordable. I could buy 4 of them and probably get through at least a month, 2 months worth of welding. So after I thought about it, it wasn't that bad because I could get the wire from Harbor Freight and go from there. So while I do this video, I'm probably gonna move the camera around quite a bit because I want you to see what I'm doing. So with that, that's exactly what I'm gonna do. Okay, so here's the welder itself. As you can see, it's Arc Captain, and it is a MIG 160. That's the owner's manual for it. You also get a wire welding setup guide. So this thing will weld, it'll do MIG welding, TIG welding, and it'll do stainless steel. So For such a small unit, it does a lot of things. So I'll open it up here. And there's the 030 wire that I told you I put in. And if you watch, I hit the trigger. Now I did not hook the gas up yet, so you can see the wire coming out. Nothing too exciting about that yet, right? So we're gonna leave that as it's set. I might have to reset this tension. So this is the tension screw here. And if you've never done one of these, all you do is you flip this open. So I'll do that again. You go in here, you flip this up, you open this up, you take this cap off and you can change the wheel. So they give you 2 wheels. This one has, in the grooves there, it has cut lines, so it grabs the flux core wire. With the gas wire, you don't need that wheel, so I just put in the regular smooth driver, I guess I'll call it. You clamp it down into place, adjust it accordingly, and again, I use this guide to set the parameters. So today, you can see I've got some coupons laid out here that are typically used in a welding class. I have an overlap weld. We're going to do an open butt weld with a backer. So this is an open butt. This is an open butt with a backer, and then we're also going to do a regular open butt weld where we'll be closing this in here. So again, my background had always been auto collision. I'm not doing collision anymore. I'm doing custom. So basically I can do what I want, and so can you. So if you got more than the basic knowledge, that's great. But if not, you know, everything is here in the guide to tell you how to set the welder. You look inside the owner's manual and it's got everything you're going to need to set this machine and get going, I'd say within a half an hour. Another weld we're going to make is we're going to do some plug welds. So you can see I've got a piece of steel here with holes in it. I'm going to clamp these 2 together and we're going to weld those plug holes shut. So when I weld, I like to grind through the primer, the coatings, if you will, which is usually zinc on auto body parts, at least new parts, and the factory primer, of course. I like to grind where the weld is going to be. I don't grind it all bare. If for some reason it has to be bare, I put a weld through primer. Some guys use copper, some guys use zinc. Everybody has their own choice. I'm not here to debate what you do. I'm just telling you what I do, whether it's something you do or not. I want you to feel comfortable by doing it the way you know how to do it. So with that being said, I'm going to show you what comes with the welder. Well, they do give you some nice stickers to put all over the welder. They give you a shoulder strap that you hook to the machine. So this is, again, it's a very, very portable unit. It's not heavy. It can go anywhere. So when I'm welding in the car, it'll be right next to me. And they also give you a cable attachment for stick welding. So if you're doing some heavy steel, you can do stick welding. And here's the ground cable that I have to hook up yet. And the whip, as we like to call it, or the handle, comes pre-wired to the machine. So here's the front of it. So if you look at the front of it, it says 109. Well, on that chart I showed you, it says for 2.5 millimeter to set it to 110 to 112. So I just threw it on 109. That's where I'm going to start with the thick stuff. When we go down to the thin stuff, it's going to be 45 to 55. So what you're setting is the voltage. So the voltage also controls the wire speed. So once you know the chart and know what you're welding, it's going to be easy for you to set it between the parameters where you like it. You can see here, I'm on MIG welding. It shows 030 is what I'm welding. That's all I got to set is that dial. So it couldn't be simpler. Well, anyway, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this welder and lock it so I don't drop anything, and carry it over to the welding cart. So there's my setup. It's on a rolling cart. I got my helmet, I've got welding gloves, I've got the gas bottle. Now I've got to hook up the hose here to the back of the welding unit. Okay, so I'm going to take the gas line from the tank and it just screws into the back. I've got some wrenches here somewhere. Oh, they're right over here, so I'll go get them. So it is an 11/16. And the big one is 3/4, so I'm gonna make sure I'm careful that I don't over tighten. These are compression fittings, so that's why I elected to not put thread tape on them. Put that back into place. And now I'm going to turn on the gas. Okay, so I want to set it about 25 pounds. So what I'm going to do is get my Sharpie and mark, because it's glass, my weld at. I can adjust that up or down as I need it. So let's watch that gauge. So there, you can see it's going up to the 25 to 30 that I want. So I've got gas, I've got wire. All I got to do now is get my welding coupons ready. And to do that, I'm going to grind where I'm going to weld. All right, we're back. What I got here is I've got my my overlap weld here, and what I'm going to do is, you can see where I drew the line. I'm going to grind it equally on both pieces. So let's do that. So one thing you want to do is make sure you wear some kind of eye protection. I'm going to hold this clamp. I'm not holding the metal with my hand. I'm going to hold it with a clamp, so when I grind here, I'm nowhere near my hand. It's the only reason I don't have gloves on. So here's the other half of that weld. Now, I don't know if you can see it in the video here, but if you look where I go here, it's a lot shinier. It's a lot shinier than where I was grinding around it. That's because you're first taking off the primer they put on, then you're taking the zinc off. So if you want to weld to true bare metal, you got to take the zinc off. So I'm going to get the rest of these ready, and we'll do kind of a speed up on the film then, so you don't have to watch me grind for a half an hour. and then we'll continue on. And don't forget the 3/8 of an inch stick wire sticking out of the nozzle. Well, that burns pretty nice. I even think I could, I've got it on 105. I could probably turn it down a little if I wanted to. Again, we filled the gap. I got off the line here a little bit. I could go back in and weld that. And we got a great burn mark on the back, so I know I got penetration. Let me fill this up. All right, so if you look here, you can see we got a nice bead of weld right there. It kind of went off the course a little bit down here, but again, anytime you weld on a car or whatever piece of equipment, you want to run some test welds. So number one, you get the machine dialed in, and number two, you get your orientation into what you're welding. Now, this is a little rickety. When I push on it, even with that wire, it moves all over the place. So you want something a little more stable than that when you weld. But we'll just use that for today, because again, what today's video is about is getting this machine running, start dialing it in, so when I do go back to that car behind me, I know how to use this machine, I know the parameters, and I have everything set right to put that car together properly. So let's keep going. One of the questions I used to get when we were doing training is, how wide should the gap be? The gap should usually, well, number one, you're always going to follow OEM recommendations if you're working in a body shop. Other than that, rule of thumb is it should be the same thickness as the metal you're welding on. That's what the gap should be. And see if we can do this open butt weld. We're going to close that gap shut. One stitch at a time, it's easier to fill the gap that way. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. First shot out. I did stitch welding. I did a little stitch at a time. I'm gonna brush it down. I always like to brush my welds down so I can see what the heck I got. I've got good penetration on the back. Not because it burnt the primer, but you can actually see it's just a millimeter higher than the metal itself. So this thing really puts out good penetration. I'm very impressed with the fact that I'm plugged into 110. Now this welder will plug into 110 or 220. So it's very versatile that way. And again, its size allows you to carry it wherever you want to weld. So if you have a heavy extension cord, now the book says don't plug it into an extension cord. I am plugged directly into the wall. I'll show you. See, it's right there. It's got the adapter here. It takes it from the 220 plug to the 110 plug. So I'm in a 110. I couldn't be happier with that. I got a tiny bit of porosity here. Porosity is going to happen usually when you let go of the trigger or if you pull away too fast. So what I would do is I would grind this flat, and if I'm happy with the weld, I'll leave it. If not, I'll go back and touch it up. Now, in the collision world, you really don't want to do that. You want to get it right the first time because you don't want to introduce any more heat into the metal than you have to. In my world here, custom garage, if you watch all the custom shows, there's a lot of great welding going on. There's some questionable, but again, we're custom fabricators. We're doing our thing in our garage. So just keep that in mind. I'm happy with this weld. I'm very happy with the way the back looks. I cannot see any of this seam in the weld, and that's what you're looking for. And if you see the heat ring, the heat shadow, that's why I brushed them down so I could see how wide. It's pretty equal all the way through, so I know I got enough metal on both sides. I decided before we go to the thin metal, we're going to do these plug welds because that's the 2 millimeter, the thick metal. So I'm going to do that while the machine is set and working well for that. So here's the front of where I close those plug weld holes. You can see they're a little higher than the metal. So that little dimple I got there, if this was something that had to be ground down flat, you wouldn't see the dimple. On the back side, we've got plenty of burn through. So the test for this would be to put this in a vise and take a chisel and hammer in between the welds. The plugs will stay. The metal will tear around it. So these are all good. I'm happy with these. We're done with the thick. And now we're going to go to the thin metal. Remember I told you earlier about testing these? You would bend them. So if I go like this, so you can see the weld stayed on the base metal, and here we have what we call a window. So you can kind of see that. I want to make sure you see the window. So I'm going to, see that window there? That's because that's where this used to be. So you break that off, weld stays on, look for the window. That weld isn't going anywhere. That's how you test them. So doing this, for me, is very reminiscent of when I was a welding trainer. And I do enjoy it a lot. Okay, we got that clamped on. Here's my other clamp. Anybody remember what this weld is? What do we call this one? Call it, it fell down. Hopefully that'll stay there now. We're back in business. And here we go. So I need a little more penetration, so I'm going to turn it up to 50. There we go. So, that is a classic example of what I mentioned when we were welding the thick ones. Whether you're a hobbyist, whether you're a professional, anytime you weld, you want to do some test welds on similar metal. In other words, the same gauge metal. And you could see it was spinning a little bit. I was set at the amperage at 45. And I turned it up to 50. That's the range they gave. I probably could have gone up to 55, maybe even 60, but then I've got to move faster. So if you're running hotter, you want to move the wire faster. If you're going to run it colder, then you're going to move your wand slower, so you get the penetration. Faster so you don't burn through, slower at a low setting so you get the penetration. So you saw it, you can see here. Let me brush it. Here's the backside burn before I brush it. So I'm pretty happy that this turned out this way because I'm going to show you. So when I was at 45, it was spinning. You heard it spin a little bit. I turned it up to 50 and I got a nice bead laid out on there. If you look at the backs, a lot of times you can't see the back of the car because maybe the inner structure hides it. So you could see that where it was on 45, it started to penetrate, but then it skipped. When I turned it up to 50, it penetrated all the way through, so I got a nice solid weld there. So, we'll put on our glove, hold one side of this, and do the test. So you can see that I'm doing the same test I did on the other one, where I just keep wiggling this till it breaks. And you can see the weld stayed on there. I don't have any gaps in the weld here. And I got the window that I showed you earlier. Okay, so this is a good weld. Not the prettiest weld. But when I weld, I always said, I'm going for strength, not looks. So we're going to do the same thing on this side. We're going to bend it back and forth. You can see me bending it. And again, nice and tight. There's no gap in the weld to the metal. And I got a very good window there. Let's see. Make sure you can see the window. There's the window right there. And the weld stayed on. So that's a successful one too. As far as visually, sometimes you got to grind them down and touch them up. Back to life. But people also have to remember that when these cars are produced, they're welded together by robotics. Now, robotic welding is not flawless. It's as good as the person that programmed the welder. It's as good as the equipment. How clean is it? So when you see that video, you could Google robotic automotive assembly and you'll see a car, a bare body, with 4, 5, 6 welders in there at once. Just looks like the 4th of July and the sparks everywhere. That's not what you're duplicating in this garage. You're doing one weld at a time, one panel at a time, and I have more control because I'm the one holding the wire. So those guys there got to make sure that those machines are programmed right so they all work in unison to keep that assembly line moving. So that's the biggest difference from production welding to welding as a hobbyist or a customizer. So the last weld is going to be the thin metal, open butt. I'm just eyeballing the gap because I've done this like a billion times. I don't like that. Let's do this. There we go. Close up that gap a little bit. We need a ground clamp. Here it is. There we go. So you can see I got a hole in there, so I'm going to have to go back up and fix it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start stitching. I'm going to close this hole up, and then I'm going to stitch the rest of the way down. And you're going to see me let the weld cool down in between each stitch. Otherwise, if you keep going, you're just going to blow holes through the thin metal. So stitch, cool, stitch again. You know, I think I'm going to turn it down a little. It says 45 to 50. I'm going to try 46. I'm not happy with this one. But what's that tell me? It tells me I could probably go down to 40. I don't know why. It's burning hot. So you know what? I'm going to grab another set of thin ones and we're going to do it once more. Okay, so we're set on 40 amps. All right, I'm going to turn it up a little. All right, it took a lot longer than I thought. So, is this one acceptable? Probably after I grind it flat, it's acceptable. It isn't going to go anywhere. The only thing wrong with this is you saw that it kept burning through on me. And I don't know why. I tried it down on 40. It wasn't enough. I went up to 46. Probably should have tried like 43, 44. Oh, on that last weld, you know what I realized? I just ran out of gas. So that's probably why I was burning through. It wasn't flowing and it didn't heat up properly, so I held it there too long, and that's probably why I had a problem with that thin metal. It helps to have gas if you're using a gas welder. So I guess I'm going to have to go down to the gas supply store and buy another bottle. Hey, thanks for being here today, watching all these welds that I made with the Art Captain MiG 160 welder. I'm very pleased with the performance of this welder. It did every kind of weld that I'd probably want to do on this car that I'm going to be building here. So again, it's a very affordable, very portable welder. It does everything that I need it to do. So I highly recommend this MiG 160 Art Captain welder. Speaking of which, there's going to be a link at the bottom of the last video here, and it's going to have Art Captain's information where you can go and look at all their products. They sell more than welders. They sell everything to do with welding, you know, wire, helmets, any kind of tools or anything that you need, you can find on that website to get your welding job done. There's also going to be a code below the link that I'm putting in. If you do buy something, it's going to have an area where you enter the code. Put that code in there from Another Man's Customs, and you'll get a discount on there. So I'm glad that they're offering that. I'm glad that I can help you get into a machine like this. So once again, thank you for being here and watching this video. We'll see you on the next one, and don't forget to hit the like and that subscribe button. Have a great one.